My lovely regular listeners must have noticed that we are honing in on 5D mystics, and there's a reason for it. So there's a huge, huge difference between the people who I have noticed maintain the 4D bandwidth and are within that mysticism, holistic, mindfulness, a middle group. So a middle group because we bring together human, spiritual, and spirituality elements. They're all subject matters. Now, people who navigate life with the left mode of their brain alone, and therefore they are in a state of being unaware when their right mode activates. And so if there's any charged states, which we all have charged states, those would be the 1 to 3-year-old, or at least the 0 to 1-year-old attached panicky, 3 to 7 shame submissive, freeze of all ages, flight 11, 12, and then fight 14, 15, 16. So I learned these charged states that every person, every human being, at least up till recently, and until they find new evidence. So, some of them call it child parts, the IFS model. And this is something positive for every person to know, especially a mystic, because a mystic will be sensitive, being aware of their body. And that's where the clairs come into the mix. And that's why my focus, 5D mystics, to give support. And I'm looking for something. To the people who, like I, know that we're not anointed or special, we would never dream of even using those words, which I've heard a lot of 4D mystics, holistic, middle ground, the ones who talk about, even there's like a Jungian type of philosophy where you're saving someone, a savior or something like that. So yeah, the whole saving reminds me of, I learned from a beautiful 5D educator and therapist person, his name's Patrick, about how the adaptive child brings forth the inner child wound. So the wound that is not healed, the unresolved trauma. And he uses an example, a couple of them. And one of them was, you walk into a store and the grocery lady looks at you weird. And the adaptive child has a couple of different ways. I must have done something. So self-conscious. There's that shame cycle as well, or shame continuum. That's another very good 5D educator, again, therapist, who talked and taught me about this, always with my trauma educational certificate. This one, yes. The other one is on YouTube, where I found this beautiful person, Patrick. In fact, we're going to use one of his recent shares, which is how people weaponize. And that's a very sad word to have to use, but 4D, and those who are not Zen masters, so they're not functional adults, they're not doing personal development, they're not increasing their humanity. So it means you're not moving into more compassion beyond a reason land. That's why we're Zen masters, the 5D mystics in the Enlightenment Soul Age group. It's a guidebook to enlightenment, but really enlightenment is you as the adult version of you having a handle on those charged states I was talking about. So the charged states and epidemiology, yes. I need to still buy a bunch of books on that series of content, but all the good therapists, they actually talk about epigenetics, not epidemiology, epigenetics, there we go. That's the right word. And how we have transgenerational trauma. They also talk about how we can undo that, how we can disengage from passing on transgenerational trauma. Even attachment researchers, in fact. Here's where my mind, from Daniel Siegel, Mindsight, really awesome how you can learn how to undo trauma, the way they're explaining it. Now, there are people that don't believe any of this, by the way. I share with them, I'm taking courses. I'm not just making it up. I know I'm not empirical in that way. You can call me pseudoscience lady. It's good. I'm good with that because it's food for thought. And really, it's to enlighten, empower those who want to be more of themselves as adults. So to be yourself, you can actually be yourself once you dissolve the heartbreak, gut wrench, torn apart shame, heartbreak. It's a real thing. So trauma memory is a real thing. So the people in the middle, they don't seem to get it. They just like to watch the movies and think that evil is a word to use, while those who are actually knowledgeable, like the lovely criminology forensic professor, who's also, I believe, a therapist, made a scale 1 to 22 of evil. He said, it's actually odd because should we be using the word, as he points out? It really was used in religious texts and philosophy long, long time ago, but every person's using it. Now, 5D mystics, we don't actually use it, or if we do, we say it's not evil, it's not the devil. It's a person at most that needs a very good somatic sensory-motor and trauma expert if, though, they want to do personal development and self-journey, because getting out of dysregulated or modulated embodied experiences, actually having all the tsunami come up is really, really painful, like physically, emotionally, the tsunami. I don't know that because I don't do human suffering, because here's 5D mystics for you. We have a container. This is our body. It's our feminine, and our head is our masculine, that we're okay with. We do inner growth in our head. We don't do inner critic. We don't do outer critic. We don't do I'm self-conscious because somebody told me to F off. No, we're like, they told me to F off. Why? I didn't do anything. Oh, that's right. Get back to the adaptive child, shall we? So the adaptive child does this thing called transference, where they objectify and or use whatever. This is a wound. They're not aware of it. So they're going to give you idealization or vilification, depending on which one of those non or yes criteria that you've met that they would want or would have wanted to have from their parent. And it's all subconscious and conscious. This is why they're not conscious. It's sensations come up, they're upset, and they have a mouth to use, and they've connected their dots in a way of making sense of why it's okay. Plus the movies make it look really good for people to be circling each other and point fingers. No, it's actually because people don't think our humanity is to be compassionate, because they use stereotypes instead of good psychoeducation, which teaches us that we have a ventral vagal nerve. And now it's becoming trending, so everybody knows about it. But if it's engaged, it's because you have an integrated brain, which means you compassionately love every human being on the face of this planet. Even if they throw shit in your face, you're going to be like, wow, I hope they're okay. Your instinctively, this is where a 5D mystic is at. Whenever I've been thrown shit in my face, I haven't, luckily not yet. But if ever I did, I'd probably be like, okay, wow, what just happened there? We don't get angry when they poke at us. We get loving, and it doesn't always look like love, though. And so the 5D Mystics Guide to Enlightenment is because we're creating a bunch of content for my 5D mystics. The 4D, they still believe in evil, the devil, energy vampires, dark auras. They insult people. They do adaptive child. They're in fact in Maya land. They don't even know it. They're enamored with their light. That one really gets me every time I think about it, because yoga, great portfolio of ventral vagal nerve toning exercises, teaches you how to be in your cortex when you're sitting in silence, which means you can start using your prefrontal cortex, that third eye. That 4D people, I was blocked when I was a witch. You know why you're blocked, right? Because you're doing karma hangover and not even looking at yourself when you're seeing everything that you've done and how it's unraveled. No, you're just pointing a finger. Oh, all of those people didn't take my side. It's very interesting when we see the blind lions and the deaf. You know why they're blind and deaf? When you have an adaptive child coming up, it means there's unresolved trauma coming up in the right mode, and there's a reactivity. You're already not with us, meaning survivor, defending, safety behavior. This is very important to note. The shame, defectiveness wants to hide from compassion, because the shame, defectiveness button is actually this longing that a poor infant had in their body that didn't get this consistent contingent communication. There's many reasons this can happen. And it's not something to focus on. What's to focus on? So here, when people weaponize psych education, as pointed out by lovely Patrick, he is nice and kind. He uses the word sophisticated. And I wouldn't use the word sophisticated. No one's sophisticated if they're using intellectual information to address another human being. And I've seen it done by a lot of people. I'm hypersensitive. I only date narcissists. Don't use those words. That's not true. And one, if you ever even remotely think that somebody might need a diagnosis, you should gently and with kindness say, hey, maybe we could go check out, together or something like that. There's all these beautiful ways that people could talk to each other if they grew their humanity. 5D mystics, we grow humanity because we're human beings. The spiritual process is AKA you moving into integration of the brain, restorative embodied self, which means when that neighbor, lovely family, throws shit in our face, we get to learn something called equanimity. If we want to move into secure attachment, your own safe haven, your own secure base, is very straightforward. You choose love. It's again straightforward. And you choose to respectfully agree to disagree as well. And that doesn't mean that we're being nice to each other. No, we can actually curse. This is adult land. I'm not talking to children. If I want to talk to children, I'd be talking in a way for children. Adult land relationships, functional adult love language. It means direct communication. So we'll have some series of these for the videos as well. In the meantime, we definitely have them on the Anchor, Spotify for podcasters. You find me on Amazon, anywhere you want, pretty much. So tune on the 16th. That's tomorrow. The new moon. We got a beautiful new moon. Clear way. Make space, make room for compassion beyond our reasons, and master a guide to your enlightenment. If you're already here, come join the group. We love to have you. We could have some chit chats and have fun. It's a love, plane, and expansion of consciousness is always where we're headed. Humanity, evolution. It's amazing. The 5D educators, we have a buttload of them. Thank you so much